Hey, welcome everyone. Sir Heroscape here today, coming at you with a 2025 Gen Con Heroscape review. Today, I wanted to basically just cover the things that have been on my mind over the past week as I spent time at Gen Con. Again, for the second year for, Heroscape's return. And specifically, give some feedback to Renegade, but also, point out some of the awesome things that they're doing. So we're going to cover, stuff like the maps, the events, the pricing, and kind of the overall experience and how Heroscape was handled at Gen Con this year. So stick around, we'll cover that in just a minute. Just before we do, always want to shout out to my affiliate link. Renegade has continued to be super helpful in allowing that to be a part of my channel. So for those of you that are already planning on purchasing Heroscape and it's already been a part of your, decision making and your finances, by all means, if you want to try and help support the channel, affiliate link in the description is a great way to support the channel if you already plan on buying more Heroscape. Let's start with maps. Now, the maps that were used at Gen Con this year, there was roughly about 10 or so. And those maps were a number of different ways that they were chosen. Renegade decided to, again, run a map contest this year, which was awesome. That was primarily run by Tommy from the community, or Mega Silver, for those of you that know him. And so the map contest winner got to participate in the maps at Gen Con. We also had commissioned maps that Renegade went to members of the community who are known map makers and commissioned them to make some specific maps for the convention with some of the new terrain. We also had maps from the past. So last year there was a really good group of maps that were part of Gen Con, and so several of those were included as well. So we had a really good showing of maps across the board from new to old. Some of these maps are only a year old, but overall, I was actually very impressed. Throughout the weekend, I was playing on just about all of them, and they really were quite balanced. I did not have many maps that really stuck out to me as a huge issue. Obviously, the ones that stood out to me more were the ones where the queen had a hard time. That's just the nature of the queen, not necessarily the map. But overall, I felt like the maps were very balanced. They had good development, good movement. I didn't feel like I was fighting against the maps when I was playing on them, which felt really, really refreshing. Sometimes you can get a map that hasn't been vetted super well, or sometimes, you're just playing and you just feel like, the odds are against you because of the way the map features, are built or run. And so overall, I really did feel like the maps, were not an issue in terms of competitive play. Now, a couple items of feedback to Renegade, I would say, is that the map builds were an issue. And what I mean by that is I think there was a lack of quality check. There were several people that had to try and build 100+ maps over the course of, a day or so to get ready for Gen Con. And so naturally, quality control is going to be difficult, especially when you might enlist the help of people that aren't as familiar with how to build maps, or at least use the instruction manual on how to build maps. And honestly, sometimes even, if you're good at reading instruction manuals and Heroscape maps are just difficult to build. Like looking at a top down and seeing the different colors and trying to figure out where the locations are is not always easy to orient. And several of the maps were built wrong. We caught them pretty consistently throughout the weekend. I wouldn't say 20% of maps. It wasn't like egregiously so, but there was a good enough amount that, other Heroscapers were noticing and catching the issues. And throughout the event, I recognized that pretty often. And I caught some as well on my maps where you just sit down and you were familiar with the map enough to know that something was off, and you checked it and you're like, wow, yeah, this is completely built wrong. And so again, not a rag on Renegade per se. I would just say that I think it is necessary when you have a competitive scene and you have tons of maps being built, that a quality control person really probably should do a once over of each map, just to make sure that, yes, from a sniff test, from looking at it, it looks accurate. And someone who's familiar with those maps, right, who's built them and is familiar with them. Again, I don't know how that was done. Over 100 maps, if only 10 are wrong, that's not horrible. But again, you still gotta, you still got to check those. So that would be a little bit of feedback, is probably like a, 15, 20 minute quality check from somebody from the team or even a community member to just go through the maps and just verify that, the builds look accurate. Another piece of feedback is the glyphs, not in a bad way, mostly in a good way. I would say the glyphs did feel much better this year. They listened to the community and didn't have the bad, unbalanced glyphs set on the maps. And Adepticon also was, I think, a bit of an issue where they declared 2 glyphs would be on every single map. That was Dagmar and the heel glyph, Hawkland. And that wasn't necessary either, to just have every single map have the same glyphs. And so I think they realized, okay, we can listen to the community on this one, and they had specific glyphs and a difference, a rotation of glyphs across all the different maps, which was really good. My only little feedback on that, I think, for Renegade would be, I do think Valda has proven to be a little bit too strong. The community is working on providing a +1 movement glyph. So, if you plan on throwing some, additional glyphs out into expansions anytime soon, by all means, would love to see that one hit the table. But +2 movement has proven more and more to be very, very strong, especially when paired with Dagmar. And there was a couple maps where it was paired with Dagmar in it. So it made just initiative switch opportunities really, really powerful, where you could go on a turn 3, grab the initiative glyph, and then turn 1, grab the movement glyph, and just absolutely blow up your opponent from really far away. And so, again, you have to have the right skill to be able to set that up and know that can be a potential on the map you're playing. So I get that. But Valda did seem a bit oppressive in some matchups. And so, not necessarily that it can't be done. I personally like Valda on a lot of maps, to be completely honest. But it's just something to keep in mind, that it can be a pretty strong glyph. On to the events. I would say very well done. There's been a lot of really good feedback, and I do have some specific feedback, and I would say constructive criticism here in a minute, but overall, really honestly pleased. Mainly because, despite being part of the championship event and doing some side events, I loved seeing non-stop filled tables of how to play, learn to play. There was like probably 2 or 3 rows of tables that were just BattleBox events, learn to play events, where people were just constantly participating in their, with a couple heroes, playing it out, learning how to play. And that was so cool. And then keep in mind, they also had paint, events nonstop. And that was awesome too. You had a ton of people going out and just getting to get a free miniature, paint their miniature, and walk away, getting a little bit of exposure to Heroscape, which was really, really cool. And then you had the Vengeance for Valhalla. Now, Vengeance for Valhalla initially looked like kind of a doopy little side event that I was kind of like, really? It's like a scenario play. Seems kind of lame. It's only an hour or whatever. Proved to be really, really fun. I'm not gonna lie. I was impressed. Wasn't sure about it initially, but when I showed up, the maps looked sweet. Really, really cool maps. Map. It was one map. It was a scenario map. They adjusted some of the rules and kind of did some kind of house rules for scenario play to make it a little bit more balanced, but it was basically the heroes versus Utgar, and trying to take the key and get to the castle type of thing. Very simple, nothing too crazy. It was a lot of fun. It was a little hour. It was a multiplayer event where you could play with your buddies, and it was basically, the good team and the bad team fighting each other and trying to get past into Utgar's castle. And so it was actually really fun, and all these events did get you a Raylan promo, which is great, again, for newer players. And they were quick, right? These were quick events on the side that you could, jump in, and you had an extra hour. You could, get an extra Raylan and have a fun time. So I was honestly very impressed with that. Now for the main event and side events. Now the main event, I think, actually did run quite well. I did think it was interesting that the heats were only 1 or 2, I think 1 hour apart. There was a 10 a.m., then 11 a.m., then a 4 p.m. and a 5 p.m. I think it made sense in that if you lost the first round, you could just jump over the new heat, but you could get in at a 3-2 record anyway. So really it was just 2 heats that you could get in on Thursday to try and get into day 2, which I think is fine. I don't think you can reasonably run 4 heat events and give people 4 chances on day 2 to get in. But I think it would have been nice, for people if they lost their first 2 games, maybe to get into the next heat. So maybe did something at like 9 and 11 or 10 and 12 or something like that, right? Where, someone might not want to necessarily drop right after round 1, but then go ahead and get in, maybe after round 2 if they started 0-2. That said, I would actually started 0-2 in the heat event, decided to stick it out, won 3 games in a row, ending 3-2, and did get into day 2. So it's kind of funny how that works out anyway. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily a criticism. I think it actually ended up working out pretty well because, had I not been able to make it, I still would have had one more chance in the evening heat to get into day 2. And so having 2 opportunities at GenCon, I think actually is plenty, because you're trying to reward the people that throughout the year had won a store championship. And there was about 50 to 55 people that attended GenCon that had already made day 2 through a store championship. So really, of the 80 or so people that made day 2, you really only took on 20, 25 new people from those 4 heats, which, I think is reasonable, right? I think the majority of people probably should be people that were in the store champions and participating in their local events and winning those games. And participating in day 2. But, being able to be a part of the heats at GenCon and have a chance to make day 2 right there is great as well. So I think that honestly worked out quite well. And that was all on Thursday. On Friday, on day 2, that was the full day. It was a 6-round event, and you had to go 6-0, 5-1, or 4-2 to automatically get in, which again, I think made a lot of sense. There were some 3-3s that made in, but that was strictly just based off of overall ranking, right? So of the 80 or so people that participated, it just took the top 32 rankings, which meant that there were some 3-3s that made it in, and that's okay. I think that's fine. And it was just a really great event that spent the whole day. Now, my only criticism of that is I think I would have liked them to have an evening event. Now, that evening event was technically the bounty events where they had the Renegade staff playing against other players, which I think was awesome. I did not have the opportunity to participate, which was unfortunate, but there were several people that did, and they did them in hour slots for 3 or 4 separate hours. So again, it made sense, to do something unique and cool for the community, but it was pretty limited in who got to participate. And so I think having a side event at that time would have been fine. I don't think every Renegade employee was participating in that. Again, I think there's only like 12. And so I think it would have been nice to have a Renegade employer or 2 on the side managing and running this side event Friday evening, whatever that may have been. Because I think a lot of people really wanted to participate in Bounty, but if they couldn't because it was so limited, it would have been really nice to have a side event that evening as well. So something to take away for Renegade. People are there to play Heroscape, so we want to play as much as possible. So having as many slots and opportunities to play events would be great. Now for Saturday, because I was in the top 32, I got to participate in the championship event, which was, again, good. I think there's a really good opportunity here for a little bit of an improvement. They did have side events happening at the same time. So if you didn't make the top 32, you had the opportunity to play in the Highlander event that started at 10 a.m. or the all-time event that started at 11 a.m. Now, I do think it kind of made sense how they had it run, because basically you had the top 32 were the only people playing in the championship, and so everyone else that wanted to participate in the Highlander at 10 could. But then you had all-time event starting at 11. Now, my issue with that is that that's a lot of overlapping, and I think it would have been nice to have them offset a little bit more. I get, I made it for the top 32 the first round, and then I wanted to jump in, after losing in the top 16, I wanted to jump into an event, but they had already started the all-time event because they started at 10 a.m. for the Highlander and 11 a.m. for the all-time. So I think it's fine to have a parallel event at the same time as the championship. I don't think that's an issue. I just think I would have preferred having the all-time event, the secondary event, start maybe 2 hours after the first event, so that way people from the championship event could drop either after round 1 or a round 2 loss. Now, That's just my opinion. Doesn't have to be that way. What's more important to me, though, is actually the evening. I really would have liked to have an evening event on Saturday, because the Saturday event was basically, the championship was basically over early afternoon by, I think it was like 4 or 5, yeah, like 4 p.m., 3:30, 4 p.m. And there could have been another event Saturday evening that started at 5 or 6. And I think there would have been plenty of people that wanted to play. I mean, if I had just won the championship, why wouldn't I want to keep playing Heroscape, right? That's why I'm there. So I think Saturday night would have been an opportunity to have another Heroscape event. Again, side events in the morning while the championship event's going on is fine. I think that's okay. But having another event Saturday evening as well would have been really nice. So shout out to, Renegade again for, having enough events for people to participate. I just think there could be a couple more slots filled in. Again, that was, I think, the Friday evening and the Saturday evening, I think also could have had more events. The team event on Sunday was also a killer event. It was great. They knocked it out of the park. Really good showing for people. I think having it run by community members like Dadscaper was a great casual way to just kind of end the weekend. And it was a lot of fun, right? It always is. It's, having a team event, kind of a little bit more casual event to end the con is always a lot of fun. So that went really well as well. And I don't think that you can really have a lot of events on Sunday. I think you really have to just assume a lot of people are going to be leaving. Also, you're trying to break things down and it's the end of the con. So having one event that can just kind of finish out the convention makes a lot of sense. Also, I did neglect to, mention that I guess technically the Wednesday evening event would have been the Warden's Dinner. Renegade did want to make sure to shout out to that was a pretty amazing, event that was very, I would say, surprising. It is not cheap to invite people, 50 plus people to, go to a, local restaurant, a Brazilian, barbecue and spend the evening, feeding those people and conversing with them. That is not a cheap ticket, right? And so just want to thank Renegade, first of all, for inviting myself specifically as a warden, but also all the other wardens. Any of the wardens that were at GenCon got to come and participate in that dinner. There were others there as well that were working with Renegade and Renegade staff and whatnot. And so, I do recognize that this was something that they've done in the past where they've, had this event, but this was the first year that they'd invited Heroscape wardens to participate. And I thought that was actually very, very cool. So I thought that was awesome. Renegade, well done. If you continue to do that year over year, I will gladly participate on a Wednesday evening to go get some good steaks and food. So just want to thank Renegade again for that. I think they have done an incredible job continuing to reach out to the community, to involve the community, to reward the community in many different ways. And so that does bring me to the prizes, which I do have some criticisms about, but also some good feedback as well. So let's jump right in. Overall, I think the prizes were actually quite good, but more so for people winning. And what I mean by that is like in the championship event, right? They did a very structured prize support pool for people that made day 2, people that were the top 32, top 16, top 8, all those things, right? They really spelled out some really cool prizing, which was great, but then that rewarded just the winners. And again, that's fine. That's great. I love winning and I love getting prizes. But as I went about the weekend, I noticed that it didn't have the same feeling as last year. Now, last year, you will remember, it was the 20th anniversary, the first time Heroscape came back to GenCon, and it was a huge deal. Now, maybe that was why they gave away master sets like, Girl Scout cookies. I don't know, but it was crazy. It was like every round of every event in 2024 when Heroscape came back, they were literally raffling off random prize winners, master sets, battle boxes, like constantly, right? Every event, like almost every round. And not only that, they also did Paint Masters, and Paint Masters is a huge deal for a lot of people. And so you had some really, really awesome prizing, and it was exciting. It was cool to be talking to like little Bobby over here, who's an 8-year-old kid, came with his dad, and being like, wow, you just got into Heroscape, and he's all excited, and then he wins a random raffle prize of a master set. And that wasn't there this year, so that was noticeable. And I do think that's worth noting and calling out for Renegade, because I think now that we have terrain packs and common packs that are only $60, if you're willing to shell out, master sets that are 250 and whatnot on the 20th anniversary, I think you do set a bit of an expectation. Now, some of that funding and prize, money and support, I know for a fact was put into the, championship event and, dice and order markers and, the custom, this and that, right? And like there was a lot of like stuff for the winners in the championship event. But last year we had a lot of people that, everyone still got shirts, everyone still got promo kits, or promo figures. Last year there was, again, the feeling that no matter how well I do, I could get a prize, right? And I think that was really what was missing was, or actually even side events as well, is during the double-edged sword, and I think the other side events, the only prizes that were given for winners in the side events were later in the week, I believe, during the all-time event and the Sunday event, where I don't know who, but I think someone mentioned that to either Renegade staff or the tournament directors and said, "Hey, there's been like no prizes. Can the winners get a prize?" And I was talking to one of the other community members that was participating in the all-time event, and he mentioned that someone mentioned it, and they said, "Oh yeah," and went and grabbed some product. And so I believe the winners, like the top 4 players or something of the all-time event, did get some new in-box stuff, and then the winners of the Sunday event got some new in-box stuff, which was great, right? And I love to see that. And so I would just say from a feedback perspective for Renegade, having the established prize support, right, for the championship event, I think is great. Like those custom different items and things, absolutely 100% support that. I do think there needs to be some established support for, prize support for the side events and just random winners. I absolutely think that. You think about how much time, money, and effort people are putting in to participate in GenCon, right? It's not cheap to fly or drive where everyone comes from. You want to play Heroscape all weekend. You want to participate. You want to support the community. You want to be at GenCon. But if the only people getting prizes and walking away with something cool are people winning, then, the people that aren't as competitive or have a hard time winning, it might be hard to stay hype and stay excited, right? Now, of course, there's, still getting, some promo figures, which is great. But again, there was just a different atmosphere feeling last year because anytime that they did a random giveaway, everyone was clapping and excited and hooting and hollering when they were just so excited to see, some random person win a master set. Like, it was just cool. So I would suggest to Renegade that in future years, make that a part of your giveaways. Is that I think every event winner, whether it's a main event or a championship event, should walk away with product. Same goes for the championship event, right? I don't believe there was a Paint Masters in the giveaway this year, which I think they had mentioned that there would be. I don't know 100%, but I had thought they had mentioned that there would be. And that's, again, a big deal. And so I think winners of any side events or championship events should get free product no matter what, whether that's, an army box or a terrain pack, whatever that is. There should be something, new in box that they can win. And then every event should have random winners throughout. I think, an army pack or a terrain pack is great, right? And people that already have the stuff, even if I win something and I've already got 6 of it, great. I can use that to give away on my channel, or someone else who's not a content creator can use that to give away to someone new to the scene, right? So there's a lot of opportunity for the prizing to kind of shake its way down. Even if it gets to people, even if the prize winners are active members of the community that don't need any more, right? There's always someone that will end up getting it, and then that continues to the word continues to grow, right? GenCon becomes that experience where everyone wants to attend because no matter whether you're winning or losing, everyone has a chance to win something. And so knowing that, people are going to be more excited to participate at GenCon for Heroscape. So that said, I can only give so much criticism. The prizes were great overall for, the championship events. Renegade was constantly giving out promo figures for, each event. And, we got a cool shirt. And so, yeah, there was definitely some prizes. And overall, the experience was great. So let's give an overall review. As an overall review for Renegade in 2025, the Heroscape experience at GenCon this year, I would give an A-. I do think it's above average, which is kind of that B plus range. I don't think it's the pinnacle, the top of the top yet for Heroscape at Gen Con. I think there's definitely room for improvement. But overall, Renegade is killing it. There was, again, great marketing. You saw Renegade, Heroscape marketing all over the bags at Gen Con. The booth was massive. It was one of the biggest booths in the center of the dealer hall. We still had the best location in the gaming hall, the exhibit hall. So everyone walking through the exhibit hall got to look over and see the Heroscape, statues and images and banners. And everyone walking through the dealer hall, it was right in the middle. Huge exhibit of Heroscape maps and unopened boxes and display cases full of the new figures and sneak peeks for next year, right? I mean, they went all out, and Renegade is killing it in the marketing department in terms of getting this out to people and getting them excited to play Heroscape. In terms of overall, maps and events, they did a great job. Again, still a little bit of room for improvement in a few things, but nothing too crazy. I think they're really making headway and listening to the community and participating. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It doesn't mean, whenever we give feedback, things are going to switch all, right away. But we've been giving them feedback. They've been listening, and they've been doing, really good work to improve. And so again, a thumbs up for me. Again, overall, the experience was great. And again, while prizing was a little bit different this year that I think could, have some improvement, again, overall, there were some great prizes, and, especially for the winners, I mean, there was some really, really cool stuff. So again, double thumbs up for Renegade, A- for a Heroscape experience at Gen Con, which was awesome. Really looking forward to what they have planned for the future competitive scene and Gen Con next year. Again, there's just so much coming down the pipeline, you guys. Let's stay excited. Heroscape is alive and well, and we've got a lot to be excited about. So get out to your local scene, participate in your local tournaments and events. Continue to support Renegade as best you can. Again, while we all make mistakes, and while maybe they've had some hiccups, they're doing their best. They've actually made some good improvements, and I've been impressed to see how they've kept this game alive and well over the last few years. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next time.